I'm Phillip Jackson, and I am the Chief Commerce Officer at a company called Something Digital. I spent my 40th birthday just a couple weeks ago in an ice bath. We'll we'll explain why. You probably don't often see talks start this way, where you can see an egregious amount of upper thigh, but we'll get to the reason why I spent my 40th birthday in an ice bath. Just a quick word about Something Digital. We are a full-service e-commerce agency based in New York City. We have offices in LA and in Palm Beach. I'm in Palm Beach right now, as I have been every day for going on 6+ months now. And we build e-commerce from soup to nuts, and we'd love to help you grow your e-commerce business. When you launch sites day one, when you launch a site, you got to grow a site, and we'll talk a little bit today about how maybe you can grow your site or grow your vision, and reinvest in your mission. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I also, as Lindsay pointed out, I founded a podcast 4 years ago called Future Commerce, which accidentally became a startup. These days, we perform research for retail brands who are looking to connect with their audiences, and we create content. We have a podcast called Future Commerce. It's available everywhere podcasts are found. The podcast brand didn't always look this way. Some time ago, we engaged a branding agency. As if you've launched a retail brand, you've probably engaged a branding agency at some point, and you have these long series of meetings where you sit down and you say, basically, what do you want to be when you grow up as a brand? I won't show you what our brand used to look like, but it was basically a clip art rocket ship, which was very on the nose for something called Future Commerce. There's a lot of depth and a lot of meaning to the brand identity that you see here that was eventually presented to us. And I really caught hold of this when it was given to us as a final round. But the way we got there was so interesting. I remember sitting in an early meeting of them pitching to us the brand, and they brought out this this picture, which you may remember from high school in doing sort of Greek and Roman mythology studies. This is the Roman god Janus or Janus. Janus is where we get the word January from. The Roman god Janus or Janus is the god of the passage of time. It's the marking of all new things. It's the old man looking back and the new man looking forward. It's the culmination of everything that has ever been and the possibility of everything that could come before. And as they told it to me, as they said, there's this concept of the duality of you being a culmination of your prior self, but the hope that the younger you, the future you, is undetermined and it's undiscovered and is just a world of possibility, that what happened before is gone and can't be changed, but what happens next is up to you and is completely undiscovered, and it can be this brand new thing that you can create of your own doing and out of your own will, out of your own desire. And I caught hold of that and I said, absolutely, yes, I totally understand that. Because when I sat down in this meeting, as they pitched to us the brand of Future Commerce, when I sat down, that was me. I understood that. I understood I am Janus, I am Janus, that is me. Because I myself am the culmination of everything and all the decisions that I made of who I used to be that defines who I am right now. But I am also at once an endless possibility of what the future could be. That my past doesn't necessarily define my future. It is part of me, but it is not everything that I am, and all of my possibility for tomorrow. It doesn't dictate what my tomorrow looks like. I used to be 343 pounds. And I'm not talking 20 years ago, I was 343 pounds. I'm talking 3.5 years ago, I was 343 pounds. The person on the left, that picture was taken 6 or 7 years ago. 343 pounds, that was 150 some odd pounds ago. The person on the right, that's a picture that was just taken a couple years ago. And it was a journey that took place over 20 months of incredible personal growth, a lot of pain, to be honest with you. But The person on the left was in pain all the time. The person on the left was struggling all the time. The person on the right is a person who is intensely happy. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this journey. Because as we're like looking at this idea of, well, what does weight loss have to do with e-commerce? I'm going to give you 4 reasons why weight loss has everything to do with e-commerce. If you look like where I've come from and where I'm going, it looks a lot like this incredible exponential growth, not just as a human being, but in my physical capabilities, my emotional health, my spiritual health. Everything that I am today is exponentially better than where I was before. And it comes with a lot of decisions that I made that were the right decisions that empowered me to make better decisions in the future. And if that doesn't sound like growth in building a retail business, I don't know what is. So let's unpack this a little bit. When people ask me, how did you lose the weight? How did you lose 154 pounds? And how did you do it in 20 months? With no diet, with no surgery, with no fads, with no wraps, no essential oils that my high school girlfriend was trying to sell me on Facebook, no miracle cures, nothing drastic. How did you lose the weight? They already know the answer. You know how to lose weight. Everybody knows how to lose weight. It's diet and exercise. That's it. There's no mystery to losing weight. You already know. You already have all the tools to lose weight. You just have to, the things that are in your way are making a decision and having the grit and the fortitude that no matter what it looks like in the moment, that you're executing on the plan. So how do you lose weight? Calories in, calories out. That's it. If you can post up a daily deficit of calories, eventually you will lose weight. I used to be the person who would tell you that genetics play a part. I was big boned. I have, a big butt bone and a big stomach bone. And that's just who I am. That's who my mom was. That's who my grandparents were. Genetically, I'm predisposed to being a little heavier than the average human being. I am now, I would tell you now, I'm genetically predisposed to being a runner and a cyclist and a swimmer and doing high intensity interval training, but I wasn't 3 years ago. I think it just comes down to having realized that I am the culmination of decisions that I made, but those decisions only define who I have been. They don't define my future. So calories in, calories out. That really comes down to like how do we build businesses, right? And there's fundamentals in the way that we architect our businesses. If you don't have a clear vision and you haven't set clear goals, and those 2 things define the strategies that you put into place. I may have a desire to lose weight, but if I don't have a clearly defined goal, and by the way, like there's big stretch goals. 154 pounds is a whole lot of weight to lose. And those goals can be overwhelming. So setting like definable goals that are actually like attainable is part of the key to success, as it is in e-commerce as well. And then the strategies that you employ to help you reach those attainable goals they flow out of the goals that you set, which all comes down to the vision that you had in the future. And if your vision is, I want to be an athlete, well, your vision is this great, big, huge vision, but the goal has to be a super attainable goal that has milestones along the way that tell you whether or not you're heading on the right direction to be the vision, to fulfill the vision. And what we get sidetracked, right? We get sidetracked along the way. I got sidetracked. I made the decision on January 17th, 2017 to lose the weight, which wasn't that long ago. That day, when I weighed myself, it was 343 pounds. And the first thing that came to mind of how to lose the weight was a lot of fads, right? I did everything. I did keto, I did paleo, I did Whole30, I've done the detox thing, I did the lemon water tonic thing, I've done intermittent fasting, I've done it all. But what's funny is fads come and go. The principle of losing weight, everybody knows how to lose weight. We tend to want to chase the thing that's in fashion. It's funny because in my vantage point in e-commerce and being in delivering strategy for high growth e-commerce brands, I see a lot of brand operators who want to chase fads. But the fundamentals haven't really changed in many, many years. What we lack is tools to track our progress along the way. For me, the tools for weight loss were these two tools right here. It was something to say, how do I quantify myself every day in the food that I'm taking in, and how do I quantify myself every day in the energy that I'm burning, my calories out. So calories in, calories out. That was it. And so really it just comes down to, like, again, in terms of e-commerce, this was an analytics problem. This was if we can't measure it, if we can't like measure it, and then we can't improve it. And so what's interesting is the way my brain works. As soon as I understood this, all of a sudden my whole mentality around weight loss changed. It stopped being a 154-pound goal, and it took me back to my days in 2008 of growing a high-growth e-commerce brand and taking a brand to 20 million inside of 18 months. It became a, how do we set very attainable stepwise goals? So that's point number one, is setting attainable goals. Instead of me trying to say I need to lose 50 pounds in X amount of time, maybe it was, how do we lose the first 10 pounds and what's a reasonable amount of time to do it? And so for you, the thing you need to invest in is creating virtuous cycles for yourself, because that's what helped me lose the first 10 pounds. It was making a better choice of something to eat. It was making a better choice of getting out and getting active. Instead of coming home, if you've read James Clear's book, which is oft quoted these days, if you have atomic habits that have formed, a lot of times the decisions you make are based on the habits that you have. And so maybe interrupting those little everyday routines by doing something a little bit different will help you set yourself on a better course. For me, it was, rather than getting home from work and putting on my home clothes and, moping around in my socks, it was home clothes and, you know what, I'm going to put on my running shoes. And by putting on my running shoes, I was a little bit closer to actually going for a run. Did I always go out the door for a run? No. But it got me a little closer to going out for a run than if I had just following my daily routine. Here's the rub, okay? The virtuous cycle for me, or the vicious cycle for me, was bad goals, goals that weren't attainable, led to bad actions, which meant I was, on unsustainable fads, fad diets, fad workout routines, and they led to bad results. And so the virtuous cycle was setting better goals, which led me into better actions, which took me into better results. The most successful e-commerce brands we work with at Something Digital understand this, that they have to set good goals for themselves, and they have to reinforce good actions daily so that they get the good results. For me, the putting on the sneakers instead of moping around in socks was an example of taking the next right step. Taking the next right step was, first, very clearly, I knew what the action that I was supposed to be taking was. Doing the action was the hurdle to overcome. So how do I set myself up for success? You hear a lot about accountability in the circles of things like weight loss, but in reality, I decided to become accountable to myself. Not that I just don't want to let someone else down, but I don't want to let myself down, because I knew in my mind that from a health perspective, I couldn't continue on the way that I was. And so taking the next right step in the sustainability of my weight loss has a very discreet and like very obvious mirror to taking the next right step in charting out the maturity of your e-commerce brand. I believe in this so much that around the same time, we created something at Something Digital called Bullseye. And Bullseye is basically a 4-year study that we did of all of our e-commerce brands that we manage in our high growth strategic engagement group. And we look at every single brand's tactic, every single brand's strategy, and we map them out across a spectrum of maturity. And so as you're closing in, you become much more focused. A less mature brand is very unfocused in the way that it's operating. It's trying to do a whole lot of things with very few resources. A more focused brand has very, very specific strategic goals that they need to meet. They know how to meet those goals. They know the tactics to employ so that they can enact the right strategies to help them affect change in those goals. And so as we close in on a bullseye, you're becoming more mature over time. And so Bullseye actually, as a little tangent here, we've written a ton of content that is effectively a maturity quiz. You can get it today at somethingdigital.com/bullseye. But the maturity model of this is really just helping brands understand where you are today, like how you think about the world today, the things that matter to you today, and then how you take, like, what is the next right step for you to become more mature? What is the next right strategy? What is the next right tactic for you to employ for you to become more mature for tomorrow? And that really resonates with me because instead of me trying to lose 154 pounds, it became more about how do I run for the next 10 seconds? Can I just hold on in this Couch to 5K 9-week program where it's interval run walk and I've got 10 seconds left on the clock? Can I just hold out and endure the pain for 10 more seconds? Well, yeah, I can. Can I just hold on to lose 10 pounds? It's not about losing. It's not about the big goal. It's about the very near term goal. And then how do I eventually work up to the next goal, which would be the 10 miles or whatever the next goal would be in my sort of my growth as a more active person in my life. And so that 10 seconds, 10 pounds, 10 miles has a very clear mapping to 10 sales, $10, 10%. Like how do you get the next 10 sales? How do you grow AOV by the next $10? And how do you grow your conversion rate by the next 10%? What's interesting is that high growth brands have this really interesting inverse curve to my weight loss journey. There's this saying that I love about bankruptcy. It's how do you go bankrupt? Well, it's gradually and then suddenly. For me, how do I lose weight? Well, it's suddenly and then gradually, which is sort of the inverse to a high growth e-commerce brand. I lost that first 50 pounds, if you can sort of chart it out here, in the space of, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. It was very, very quick. It was somewhere around like, I don't know, here, where I realized I had actually hit my goal and I didn't know what to do with myself, because you go from, I had set this goal to like my ultimate weight loss goal, and over 20 months I'd set much more attainable, reasonable goals along the way. And then one day I realized I have to do this for the rest of my life. Like I have to be this person forever. And I was not prepared for that. I have to manage what I eat forever. I have to run 30 miles a week forever. I have to, this is it. This is me for the rest of my life. The other thing that was like this monumental shift that like was really hard to grapple with was I could allow myself to eat a little more and to run a little less, because I wasn't trying to lose weight anymore. I was trying to maintain, which was a very different lifestyle to the weight loss. It never actually got easier for me, even after I lost the weight. The goals changed, certainly, but the lifestyle was certainly different than what it was when I was a couch potato. But the difficulty and the struggle never went away, which is interesting. That's what they say about running. I'm now a runner. You can see where I'm kind of going here. As a runner, they say, it never gets easier. You just get a little faster or you run a little further. And I can super identify with that. In e-commerce, it never gets easier. You just have more employees to have to feed at the end of the day. So for me, creating something more sustainable and to create something that like made this easier was to find a multiplier. Like, what is something that will sustain me forever, rather than this having been a 20-month journey in my life and then I bounce back and lose a lot of weight? Let's go back to that last thing. You see those spikes there? That was me coming off plan and gaining weight and freaking out. And so like, I realize this progress isn't necessarily straight line. I have to find something like a multiplier, or in startup land, we might call this a moat. Like, what is my moat? What is something that makes me defensible? What is the thing in the startup world? It's what separates me from everybody else and creates a a need for my business that helps me sustain my business. In my weight loss journey, it's like, what is my moat that's going to help me maintain weight loss forever? And for me, it turned out to be community. I found a ton of people in my local, here in South Florida, who are like as passionate about running as I had become. And these people of all ages and all walks of life and from all backgrounds and from all kinds of fitness levels love to run, but they love to run in groups. And they challenge me. We share a journey together in running, and I genuinely enjoy being around them. So there's something really special, very powerful about having found something that like they challenge me to get out and to explore trails and to explore places I've never been. They tell me about their achievements, and that helps me like create new goals for myself and find try to push myself a little further. They encourage me to get out and go for a run when I don't really freaking feel like it, because that still happens. And so for me, my multiplier was my community. And I love this quote because it really it really nailed for me the sustainable nature of what community is all about, because I could go into a lot of things like how community is defined and what community really means to me. But on this little side journey of why community was my multiplier, and I'm sure there might be something different for you. By the way, there's a ton of community-driven brands today. There's a lot of brands out there building audiences and creating content and developing, investing in communities to help them, create a more sustainable business. And so for me, it really resonated with me when I found this Margaret Wheatley quote about the power of a community. The power of a community is, the community as itself finding what it cares about. Me finding a community helped me find something that I cared about more deeply than just my own physical fitness. It was the health and well-being of these people that I'd found. And there was something really like almost spiritual about that and finding deeper meaning in this journey of weight loss. And when I talk to founders and I talk to business operators every day, there's something very like deeply meaningful for the ones that like have the ones that are different, the ones that aren't just punching the clock, the ones that are growing by leaps and bounds are the ones who have found something truly remarkable because they found the overlap of the deep meaning of the thing that they care about, and the thing that is economically viable and the thing that resonates with people. And so just a little side journey here. In talking about community, there's this Carol May's piece called Leading from All Four Quadrants. I realized that there were times in my life that I was overinvested in other areas, that I wasn't so invested in myself, or I wasn't so invested in a community, and that created a lot of dissonance in my life. And it created a lack of personal identity. It created a lack of a virtuous cycle that kept me and sustained me going. But I realized that to be well-rounded in my career, I sort of had to invest in all four of those quadrants. I had to invest in a lot of different areas over time to make myself successful. Isn't it interesting too that's how you grow an e-commerce brand? There's only a few areas that you have a few levers that you can pull to make yourself successful. You can drive more traffic to your website. You can convert it at a higher rate. You can get them to purchase more while they're there, and that's it. That's the bottom line. Now, traffic comes in two flavors. You have acquisition, like brand new customer acquisition, a lot of performance marketing happening nowadays, and you have customer retention. But if you're not doing all of these things, then you won't be successful. And it won't be a sustainable business. You can certainly overinvest in any one of these areas and actually harm the other two. And that's what I found is that like being well-rounded and having a sustainable weight loss goal really mirrored this idea of like the sustainable brand. So community was everything. So much so that I found that my weight loss journey had inspired so many people. I had keynoted an event in 2018, about a year in after I'd lost a bunch of weight, and they did this whole thing where they dressed me up like Forrest Gump and we went for a run in the desert. In Las Vegas. We ran along Hoover Dam, and hundreds of people had showed up for this annual run. It was my first time participating in the run because I'd only been a runner for about a year. Came in second in the 10K. That was kind of cool. But these people were like totally inspired by my own journey, and my journey had just begun. And that fired me up even more and further powered that virtuous cycle. Coming from where, like knowing where I've come from, knowing like everywhere where I'm going, and seeing a bunch of Slack notifications for some odd reason. I don't know how to fix that. Let's turn off Slack. How do we do that? I can't move my mouse. Let's hope it doesn't pop up again. Knowing where I've come from and where I'm going, there's micro goals along the way that proved very, very meaningful. So if you look here, only a few months after I had begun my journey, I told you January 17th, 2017 was the beginning of my journey. Only 4 or 5 months into it, I had already accomplished a massive goal. I had lost about 25 pounds, which was super awesome, but I was most proud of the fact that I had finished Couch to 5K after 9 weeks. It was hard, it was grueling, it was terrible, and it was just like miserable in every sense of the word because running is terrible and awful. But the sense of satisfaction, like I've never in my life had, you know, in the space of 38 minutes, had so much like fear and dread that turned into relief and excitement as that first 5K, which by the way, for those who aren't runners, is 3.1 miles. And it took everything within me. I also chose to do it on a treadmill, which looking back was really stupid because it's mentally grueling. You can quit at any time. And so May 13th, 2017 was a day that I accomplished one of those smaller goals. I didn't stop. I kept setting next goals. And I think that that's really key for you in your business. You have to keep setting goals. You'll plateau. And when you plateau, you start to regress. It's sort of just a phenomenon of the human condition that we have to continue to grow. If you're not growing, like I question sort of like, well, what are you doing? So I kept setting goals for the next couple years, all the way to December of last year, where I ran my very first ultra marathon. That's me on the right. My wife took this picture. My first ultra marathon was 50 kilometers. It was entirely in sand. There's an area around here called Juno Beach in South Florida where there's a 225-foot sand dune, and we ran in a loop for 4 miles, up and down it, up and down it, up and down it, for 31.1 miles. What a stupid goal. What a stupid thing to do. But I just set this goal for myself. And I guess that the point that I'm trying to make is that you can't stop setting goals. You can't stay still. You can't stay sedentary because you'll go right back to the vicious cycle. You'll fall back into the vicious cycle. These things have a way of feeding into each other. So for me, I didn't want to eat garbage after I went on a run because I didn't want to undo my run, but I also didn't want to eat garbage before my run because I know that I would feel like crap on my run. So these things really fed into each other. And if just 2 years later, to see what I had accomplished and to see I'd lost about 154 pounds and to see how strong I was, to be able to run up and down a sand dune for the better part of 6.5 hours, was this incredible, intense feeling of accomplishment when, you know, the person on the left could barely walk up a set of stairs without being winded. And that leads me to why I started this talk with me taking an ice bath, because I haven't stopped setting goals. Even though in December I'd set this huge goal of running a trail race. On my 40th birthday, I set out to do something even more insane. And so on my 40th birthday, I decided I wanted to, you know, celebrate something really monumental. So I decided I was going to run 40 miles on my 40th birthday. And I really wanted this to be like this, you know, spiritual, like transcendent experience. And I wanted it to just take me to the end of myself and sort of like mark the end of this long journey, and then try to figure out something new and exciting to do afterwards, because running, you know, running's getting a little hard on the body. And I set out to say, okay, I'm going to do it low and slow. I did it in August. My birthday's in August, and it was 94 degrees that day. I started at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was carrying 3 liters of water, which is super heavy. And I said I was going to get 20 miles in at least before the sun came up. And Well, wouldn't you know, like I got done with the run around 1 p.m. By 4 p.m., I was like, man, I feel great. What's next? Immediately in my mind, like I finished the run. I wanted this to just be like the most grueling thing I've ever done, but I realized in that moment, like I have so much more left to do. By 4 o'clock that day, I started planning what's my next big goal, which I don't really quite know what it is just yet. And that's, that thought sort of came to me as I'm sitting in this makeshift ice bath that my wife and my kids made for me when I walked in the door. Um, so all that to say, like, I realized that the thing that was keeping me 3 years ago from actually finishing what I'd set out to do, the thing that was keeping me in my 30s from really losing the weight and kind of like start turning over a new leaf, starting a new life, was that it was me. I was getting in my own way. I was following too many fads. In e-commerce, we follow fads, right? Like, have you ever seen a website that looks like NASCAR? It's got every payment option. It's got they're doing every single thing they've ever been told to do. They're creating content. They've got UGC. They've got like 13 videos on every page. There's customer tests. Nothing's done really thoughtfully or beautifully. It's not been done or measured or improved stepwise. It's like IRCE threw up all over somebody's website, and every piece of thought leadership they've ever read is being enacted all at once. You can become the enemy of your own mission, and it turns out I was the enemy of my own mission all those years. Is that I wasn't very disciplined, and I had no plan, and that really just kind of brings me back to Janus, and that's to say that I am not the person that I used to be. I every day wake up today and I've actually kind of stopped thinking about my big goals. I've stopped thinking about tomorrow. Coming back to that 40-mile run, like the hardest part of that 40-mile run wasn't the 40-mile run. It was 2 weeks before when I had to run a full marathon on a Saturday and a half marathon on a Sunday, and getting out the freaking door on that Sunday to run a half after I'd run a full was mentally grueling. That was the hardest part. And but if I had thought about that during my training, it would have been this sense of dread. Like I couldn't think about the goal or the big goal. I could only really focus on what I had to accomplish today, because what I do today affects who I become tomorrow. I heard this amazing quote about if you're worried, you're living in the future, and if you are filled with regret, you're living in the past. There really is I'm a firm believer, there's no tomorrow and there really is no yesterday. In reality, the only thing we ever experience as a species is the right now. Like, we are living right now, and what you do right now is the most important thing that affects whatever happens tomorrow. And so I would encourage you to follow these 4 steps. You could apply this to anything in your life, but let's think about the growth of your business and how you can apply this in your role as a brand operator, as a digital marketer, in your role at an agency, if you're a freelancer, if you're thinking of starting a brand, if you run an e-commerce brand today, if you've been in business 20 years or 2 months, it doesn't matter. You know already how to grow a business. You have to attract traffic, you have to convert that traffic, and you have to grow your average order value to a sustainable place to where you have good unit economics, so that you can make a profit, so that you can stay in business, so that you can have employees and put food on the table. So you already know what to do. I think in most cases, for most businesses, it's about taking the next right step, and knowing what the next right step is the trick. And so part of knowing what that next right step is to set a more attainable goal for yourself. So remember, we talked about the 10, 10, 10. So think about the next 10 sales, think about the next $10 in your AOV, think about the next 10% growth in your conversion rate. Think about that, and only that. That'll set you on a path to get to the next level. Certainly, that strategy can be employed in so many different ways. There are tactics that you can employ to affect those certain areas of the e-commerce checkout funnel. But knowing why you're setting that as a goal and knowing why you're enacting those strategies is the trick. And then you find your multiplier. and whatever that multiplier might be for you in your business. Um, I mentioned fads early on. There are a lot of fads. Um, One of the fads recently has been, a few years ago, have been sustainability and businesses and brands with a purpose. And then we found out that there's a bunch of businesses and brands where that's a bunch of marketing hype and it's not actually true to their core nature. They don't actually believe what they're preaching. They're actually, it was just yet another marketing tactic. So is that truly a multiplier? Is that sustainable? Find the thing that is not the fad that will connect with customers for a short period of time, but find the thing that really sets you apart and defines you and defines who you are. That is what I think will set you up for success. And with that, I hope that you're fired up for today. I hope that you're ready for this amazing edition of Card Insiders. I think it's a really valuable, different type of an event. It is put on by some of, I think, the smartest people in our ecosystem. I truly say that. I am such a fan of all of the companies that have come together to put this on, and I couldn't be more thankful or proud to have had the time to share with you here today. And without any further ado, thank you so much, and back to you, Lindsay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was an incredible story, very inspirational, and really cool. And I have to note, in the outfit you were wearing in the desert in Las Vegas, that must not have been very comfy and probably very warm.
Terrible way to run a 10K is to dress up like Forrest Gump. I don't recommend it. And it was very hot and very dry.
Yeah.
That was not my real hair or beard. That was
right. Cool. So I had a quick question. I know mainly you talked about goals, a lot of other things, of course, but it seemed like the main takeaway here were goals, and setting obtainable, definable goals. When we're coming into the holiday season and people are setting several different goals, what happens if, you don't meet them? Or I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what do you recommend to people that might be listening in now or watching later, setting goals, maybe not being able to reach them, and how to redefine that or come back from that?
So luckily, we deal with this all the time. I think one way to approach this is, well, first of all, we're going to fail. To fail is to be human. I think that success is a sticker and failure is a scar. Success, eventually loses its stick, it wears off, it comes off. I think failure sticks with you. So I think failure is a very powerful thing, and you learn a lot from having not met goals. So don't get me wrong. I think success can be found in failure. So not everything's rosy. Not all progress happens in a straight line. You saw, in my weight loss journey, there's spikes up and down. It doesn't always happen the way that you kind of plan it out. And you can do all the right things. Coming back again, just to bring it back to the weight loss thing, there were weeks that, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, no cheating. I don't believe in cheat days. No cheating, doing all the right things. My body just wasn't responding that week. It just decided it didn't want to lose weight that week. There's nothing I could do about that. Sometimes your customers just aren't responding. Sometimes the plan that you put in place just isn't connecting. It's not resonating. I think the key there is, it's not just about the financial or monetary goal. It's not just about your micro goal or your email sign up goal or your direct response goal. I think the other goals are you sticking to the plan, you having grit and determination to see the plan through, you setting up, processes or moments for you to kind of examine and creating, playbooks of what happens if X happens, how do we enact Y, you having the right partnerships in place and folks around you to help you, have broader understanding. You can certainly not see the forest for trees in this business. You get very insulated and very siloed too, and not really understand what the world of the possible is. And so you can kind of get stuck in a rut. So as we come up on the holiday season, I think there's a whole lot of uncertainty. I certainly could point you to a bunch of thought leadership content that we have at futurecommerce.fm to talk about why I think this particular year will be unlike any other Black Friday before or unlike any one after. A lot of people have uncertainty. I would say we should be thinking every day, not just this year, but every day we should be thinking about non-monetary goals in the maturity of your business. That's like, how are you investing in people? How are you investing in yourself? Have you stopped growing as a leader? Like there are all kinds of things that you can be focusing on that I think are within your power, and not just the things that, you know, you can sort of like set a good plan and other people may not respond and you have no control over that. Does that answer the
Yeah,
question, Lindsay?
totally. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think so. We did have one question coming in while you were talking. So when customers do stop responding, how do you know when it's time to stick to the plan versus changing course? After all, sometimes, as you mentioned, we are wrong. We're not always right.
I if you're not talking to your customers,
Right.
then you don't know, like you'll never know why they're not responding. Especially something that stuck with me was this conversation I had with the former CTO of Walmart.com, who's now at
Okay.
Pinterest. He had said so he'd spent a stint over at eBay during the Meg Whitman era, and he sort of came back over and over to like every year they were required to do a week in customer support. Like they had to take phone calls every
Interesting.
year
Okay.
for a full week. Even at eBay, even as a billion-dollar brand, everybody in executive leadership had to man the phones for a week. I think we're so far removed sometimes from our customers and what they actually want, then we
Yeah.
sort of lose sight of what they're looking for. If
Right.
you're talking to your customers every day and you know who they are and you know what they want and they're telling you and they're sharing like the things they like and the things they don't, and you're honest with them,
Mhm.
I think you'll be making much better decisions. It'll be harder to miss the mark and really, really like
Yeah, that's fair.
blow it. So I would suggest for a brand of any size, like if you're not talking to customers, like
Right.
start.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then Tom, you said on unrelated note, what does Philip use for his video setup?
I'll throw it into the chat after this. It's a very
um
lengthy list.
yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's it. Philip, this was amazing. Really, really happy you were able to do this keynote today and share your journey and your story and tie it back into the industry in e-commerce. So thank you so, so much. It was really great to have you.
Thank
And
you.
any last notes to end on?
Enjoy the day. This is going to
Yeah.
be awesome. Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you so, so much. And we have our next talk in about 15 minutes.